I'm Tanya Fox, and you're listening to Fox Talks Business Podcast. I started my career in the corporate world, but always played to my own tune and loved to think outside of the box. This didn't always serve me well with the bosses, so I made the decision to become an entrepreneur. And that little seed of entrepreneurial curiosity continued to grow as I branched out into retail, service, and franchise businesses. Now, I have been fortunate to have amazing successes in the last 2 decades, but they did not come without some really big failures and even bigger lessons learned. And that's why I started this podcast, not just to share the failures, but to show you how you can turn every failure into a success. We're going to hear from some amazing humans from around the world that are going to share their stories of the good, the bad, and the motivational entrepreneurial life has to offer. After all, life is too short to make all of the mistakes yourself, so why not learn from each other? And of course, we're going to have some fun, because as I always say, well, you know what? I'll tell you that at the end of the episode. Hello, Foxy listeners. Welcome to the show today. Now, you guys know from my past, because you guys, I'm assuming everybody's been listening to the show for a while, but I used to be an accountant, which nobody wants to hear you talk. And today, my guest is going to be talking about trademarking, which I know some of you might be sitting there going, no. Hang on. I promise you it's going to be a fun episode because I have been deep diving Andrei, listening to his videos, listening to his story. It's so intriguing, is the reason why I had him on the show. So I promise you it's going to be great. Grab your coffee, grab your pen. There's going to be lots of information. Andrei, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
So I alluded to it a little bit because, of course, I kind of have been like deep diving into some of your videos and stuff, but you have a really interesting story of how you kind of got into trademarking. Can you talk to us about that story?
Yes. So it's a long story. I've been in this industry for close to 30 years now. And really the whole thing started with my father, who was a famous composer in Russia. And I was attending my first law school back in the day, still living in Russia, and really didn't see myself as a lawyer at all. And he caught a radio station that stole his song and turned that into an ad for Samsung without his permission. And he called the radio station and said, "Hey, you guys can't take my music and just use it for your ads." And they told him to sit down, shut up, and be happy that they're making him even more famous. And if you knew my dad, you'd know right away it was the very wrong thing to say to him.
Yeah.
And so he said, "Okay, great. I'll see you in court." He slammed down the phone and he asked me if I could help him take this to court. I'm still in law school. I'm like second year out of 5. I have no idea about intellectual, like zero, none. The thing was that it was 1996 when Russia has just transitioned from Soviet copyright laws to free market copyright laws. And really, there weren't anybody who had any experience with this stuff. It was so new. So, and I've always admired my dad, and I've always wanted to gain his approval and and stuff. So I said, okay, sure, I'll give it a shot. And so I took him to court. Long story short, I had to take this all the way up to the second highest court in the nation, where I finally won. And I got so passionate about helping people protect that which only exists because they created it, that it became a career, I guess. So the way I say is, he was my first and favorite client. And before I left Russia in 2007, there had not been a single federal TV station that I had not sued over my dad's music. Like every single one of them I had to sue, but I only had to do it once because we won every time. And second time we would catch them, they were like, "Okay, we'll catch you again. Here's how much we want."
Yeah.
Right. And then, so I used to work for the biggest international law firm in the world, where I did IP work for, the big names, the Apple, Google, Facebook, J.K. Rowling, all of those. Like, if you can think of a big name, I've probably done something for them. And so in 2007, I realized that I've had enough of Russia, and I moved to Canada. Went to my second law school, and once I was done, so I finished top of my class.
Where did you move I'm in Canada. So where did you land here? Oh, okay. Yep.
Thank you. Yeah, right. So finished top of my class in half the courses, top 10 in the remaining ones. And with all these great accomplishments, I got a grand total of 0 job offers to work for Canadian law school. And I'm like, what the hell? Like, this really came very unexpected. Um, and that's how I discovered the wonderful world of entrepreneurship and Rich Dad Poor Dad and all of that kind of stuff, and
Yeah.
E-Myth, and started my firm. And very quickly I realized that uh, my success as a business owner would have very little to do with my experience as a lawyer. That was a shock. Honestly, I didn't expect that, but I'm glad that it didn't take me very long to figure that out.
Yeah.
And so I started asking myself, okay, how do I turn this into a successful business? How do I give the market something that the market would want to buy from me rather than from all these established law firms? And I realized that I wanted to stick to intellectual property, and I wanted to find something that's more scalable than just Andrei selling his time,
Right.
because that's, as you know, that didn't seem like a lot of fun. Let's put it
Yeah.
that way.
Well,
And
and
so
it's harder, right? To
it is hard.
when you're trading minutes for money, it's you hit a
Yeah.
ceiling at some point.
Exactly. Actually, the way I built the business, so I started attending all those seminars, webinars, just trying to learn how do you do this? How do you run a business? And got a book, John Warrilow, Built to Sell. It's another great book that helped me, with building Trademark Factory into what it is today. And the big idea that I came up with is I came up with a number that I knew I couldn't make in revenue if I were to only sell my time, right? And that number, I still remember, was like 50K a month. Like, I knew I can't sell 50K a month worth of my time. Nobody knows me. Like, even if I'm, this amazing IP lawyer, I can't do that. And
Yeah.
so it forced me to think of a model that was scalable, and that became trademarks. So that's kind of a long winded answer to your question, how I got to do trademarks.
No, but I'm glad you kind of went down that path, because I think quite often entrepreneurs, they come, start off in sort of the corporate world where that's what it is, right? You give me so many minutes, I'm going to give you, you give me so many hours, I'm going to give you so much money for those hours. And so they transfer that, right? Because there's not a lot of people who go, okay, I'm going to learn, I'm going to go to university, I'm going to learn business management, and then I'm going to start a business. Most people are like, screw this shit, I don't want to do this anymore, I'm going to start my own business, and then just create a bunch of fires and keep putting them out and figure it out the hard way, right? Because that's entrepreneurship. That's the way you're supposed to do it, right?
And I got so scared to do this, because actually I remember, so a few days, like 5 days before I launched Trademark Factory's website, 5 days after I launched the website, I was to go to Dallas to the International Trademark Association meeting, my first one. If you can imagine a room with 10,000 trademark attorneys from all over the world, that's what it is. Like,
That sounds like
that's
fun.
not an exaggeration. It was like 10,500 something. And I was terrified to go there, because, like, how do I make them remember me? How do I stand out? Like, because these are, all guys, like, there's going to be, a ton of people from Canada, a ton of people from the US. Like, what do I do? And so I came up with an offer that I knew would stand out, which is the guaranteed trademarking services, guaranteed result, guaranteed budget. And I went there, printed a bunch of business cards, and I would go to those speed networking events. So I talked to probably 300-400 people. over the few days. And everyone told me I was nuts. Everyone told me this could not be done. Everyone told me like, well, what about, if we get this complication? What if we get that complication? You can't sell them at the same single price and you can't give them a money back guarantee. I'm like, okay, great. Thank you. Watch me.
Yeah.
And to me, that was the best validation really, because I knew that would give me enough time to build this into something that would matter before they would start copying. And up till this day, nobody has copied the model.
Yeah.
Eventually they will, but
Well, and I think that happens so often, right? Like you get stuck, you have this idea and you really do believe it's going to work because you've worked out all of these kind of kinks. And then you bring it to somebody who's kind of stuck in the status quo, right? So they just can't wrap their head around the idea, which is why they were saying like, that's never going to work, because in their head, they're going, I would never be able to make that work, right? It's not, it wouldn't work. It's, I can't make it work.
Well, because the business model of law firms is really antithetical to what clients want, because they make money from problematic trademark applications.
Right.
If they file an imperfect trademark application that they have to fight over after with the trademarks office, that's how they get their additional billable hours, right? And the more problems they encounter in the way, and the more heroically they fight with those problems, the higher their final bill, right? Whereas with my model, like here, what does the client want? The client wants everything to be done as quickly and the least problematically, right?
Yeah.
And same thing for us, because if it goes through without any issues, we get a really good margin. If we're happy, they're happy. And if we have to do all this back and forth with the trademarks office, we pay attorneys right and left. At some point, we start losing money on the client. And we've had quite a few of them. Like, I think our record is one application took us 7 years, right?
Wow.
I can so vividly imagine the client just laughing, looking at their, like, we paid these
that
guys.
Was worth it.
Like, we paid these guys 7 years ago and they're still working on it. And we got it for them eventually, right? But it made for a good case study. Shitty business.
Yeah. Well, and I think that those are the gambles you take, right? Like, I mean, when I moved to sort of like a standard rate in, like I had said, when I had the accounting firm and I went, I don't want to punch a clock. Like, this is just so annoying for me. But that was what you did, right? When I got my first job, you literally had like a little time clock. And anytime somebody called you, you hit the clock and recorded how much time you spent on the call. And I went, I don't want to do this.
6-minute increments.
Like, this is dumb. I don't want to live, because what was also happening was it was taking me so much time to write down and then I would forget. And I was just like, this doesn't make any sense to me. But I remember same situation as you, is people going, this is stupid. Like, you're not going to make money this way. And I'm like, but right now I'm going after loyalty, because I know how frustrating that it is to never know what you're going to be paying at the end of the day. Like, you're just like, I have no idea. Like, it could be $1,500. It could be $5,000. Like, I have no idea. And I think like you, when you're working with entrepreneurs, that's one thing that they need to know. Like, what is this going to cost me? And so the fear of never knowing that, I think, prevents a lot of people from going and even, considering trademarking, because they're like, nobody knows. Like, nobody can tell me what the number is. And
exactly.
I don't have infinite funds that I can just be like, go be with God. And I hope I don't have 7 years of funds to figure this out.
In my almost 30-year career, I've yet to meet a client with an unlimited budget. Like, even the billion-dollar companies have budgets, but you're absolutely right. To them, it's a lot less important, because they know they have an annual budget on lawyers that they're going to spread around, between 2,000 different files. For small to mid-sized businesses, they don't do that as much. So every time they get involved with legal or something, it's an event. And not knowing what it's going to cost them is an issue, is a problem.
So let's talk a little bit about the what, why, where, when of trademarking, because I think, the majority of the people who are listening are like, I don't even think I need one. So like, when do you need one? Because branding is such a big thing right now. A lot of people who start out are like, just use my name, right? So let's talk a little bit about when should this be something that you're actually considering in your business?
Okay, so I'm going to give you two separate answers,
Okay.
if I can. So the first one is this: you come up with a brand, and there's the second when there's this light bulb that goes in your head, right? You're like, that's the name, that's the tagline, that's the logo, whatever the hell it is. But the second you come up with it, the actual value of that brand is zero, because nobody knows about it but you.
Right.
Right? Potential value is there, but the actual value is nothing. And it's also as trademarkable as it will ever be. Okay. Because if it were at all trademarkable at that point, as the time passes, more and more people find out about it, it gets less and less and less trademarkable. And so the funny thing is, as you go and promote your brand, as you talk to your friends about it, go to networking events, you build your website, you build your social media, all of that stuff, the actual value of the brand goes up because more and more people know about it. More and more people think you have something to it. It's a good name, it's a good product, it's a service, whatever. And so the value goes up, registrability goes down, because either somebody can directly steal it from you or just independently come up with something similar. And trademarks are not like domain names. So it's not just about identical matches. It's about lookalikes, sound-alikes, mean-alikes, synonyms, added words, added suffixes, like all of those things, even translations, right? So in Canada, for example, if you're filing for a trademark in English, you have to check if there's something, that means the same thing in French.
Right.
Or the other way around. In US, you check Spanish. So like I said, this gap keeps going up, because it go bigger and bigger and bigger. And at some point, this gap becomes so big that you end up with what could have been a very valuable brand, except it's not yours.
Right.
And it's silly, really, to spend $1 out of your pocket or a minute out of your life building a brand that you don't own.
Right.
Right. So that's one answer to your question. The other answer is more practical, because you can't trademark something while it's still in your head.
Right.
Right. And from the practical perspective, you are going to ask yourself, okay, so when? Right? When is it too late, or when is it still too early? And so the answer that I always say is this. First, you have to ask yourself two questions. First question is this: if the business that I'm trying to build is successful, like if it becomes as successful as I hope it to be, will I be still doing this business under this brand that I came up with?
Right.
In many cases, it will be yes. In some cases, it will be no. Like if you're building something really short-lived, like I don't know, if you're info business, for example, you want to run a short course, you want to run it for 7 months, you probably don't need this, because trademarking is a long process. In the US takes about 1.5 years. In Canada, it now takes about 4 years from start to finish.
Yeah,
I know, which is kind of a whole other. Their Canadian government still blames COVID. I kid you not, for why it takes them 4 years to review trademark applications.
They just love that excuse.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Which is why I actually left Canada 2 years ago. I'm in Dubai right now. And so if there's no point in filing a trademark if by the time you get it, you're no longer using the brand.
Right.
Right. So the first question you ask, so 2-3 years from now, is if I'm successful, will the brand still be there? Right. And of course, nobody starts businesses expecting them to fail,
Right.
right? But some businesses you start knowing that it's a short-term brand, then you probably don't need this. The second question you ask yourself, assuming that you say, yeah, it's still going to be there. The second question is, will the brand help me with that success? Whether will the brand help me sell more of my stuff? Will the brand help me help clients find us, remember us? Will it help me get better workers? Like, will the brand mean something to the people so that they want to work for me? Right? You ask yourself all those questions, but basically, will the brand do something for the business, or is it just going to be a name that nobody cares about but me?
Yeah. And the few people. Well, and I think, if you think around to, like even, I always use Coca-Cola only because my husband has, we have so much branded Coca-Cola stuff. It's stupid. But I can recognize that font even if it's not written, even if it doesn't say Coca-Cola. Like I know that font.
Yeah. So here, well, that would be actually a perfect way to wrap up my answer to your question. Coca-Cola filed their first trademark in 1892.
Right.
That was a year when they were selling 9 drinks a day. I call it a lemonade stand with a dream.
Yeah.
Right. They incorporated in that year, and they filed their trademark in that year. Because they knew that if they were to get serious about this and make it into a business, the brand is going to mean everything.
Yeah.
It's not the drink, it's the brand. And
yeah.
Now their brand alone is worth over $80 billion. Not their factories, not their trucks, not their bottles, not their people, not their recipe, the brand. Right. However much they paid their lawyers back in 1892,
yeah, it was
probably their highest ROI on anything.
Yeah.
Right. And the other thing, trademarks is the only type of intellectual property that in theory can last forever.
Okay.
Copyrights expire, patents expire, design patents expire, industrial designs they're called in Canada. Know-hows, they disappear once the information gets public. Trademarks, they don't. You can renew them every 10 years. You pay government a couple $100 and you're going to get it for another 10 years and then another 10 years. And then that's Coca-Cola has been renewing their trademark since 1892, and they're probably going to keep doing this for a few more years.
They'd be silly not to.
Right. And the reason you have all those products and the reason you remember them from centuries ago is because they took their brand seriously back in the day.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the answer, I guess.
So do you feel like every business needs a trademark? Because I think there's some people who are like, yeah, like, I mean, everybody who goes into business hopefully isn't like 2 years and I'm out. Like I think most people are like, this is what I want to do. Like, this is now going to be my life. This is my my creation, my baby.
If it's a business, the answer is yes.
Okay.
If it's a hobby or like side hustle, the answer is probably no.
Yeah.
If it's a hobby that might turn into a business, the answer is probably maybe. But because look, business requires money. You can't build a business without spending anything. You're going to spend money on your team. You're going to spend money on advertising. You're going to spend money on building your product. You're going to spend money, like on a lot of things. And if you're not doing this, then you're always going to be a tiny business that nobody really cares about. And it's not business. It's being busy.
Right.
It's being right. It's because at that point, the person who calls themselves, founder and CEO, just loves the idea of, hey, I'm no one's employee. I'm running my business. But if the business is not making any money, and just or barely enough for them to survive, it's not a business.
Yeah.
It's survival. And look, I'm saying this as someone who's been doing this for many years in the beginning, right? But I knew that I was trying to build something significant, and but if you are planning to turn this into something that people will notice, right? You might not become a billion-dollar company. I get that. But if the plan is for you to at least get to, high 6, 7 figures, you can't get there by not treating your business seriously.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's accounting, as you mentioned in the beginning, the foundational legal stuff, who owns the company, the taxes, the trademarks. There's a few things you want to make sure you get done right, because if you don't, the second you become successful, all of this is going to be taken away from you, and that sucks more than anything else, because nobody's going to go after you when you're not making money. As soon as people start seeing signs of success, there'll be a lot of people who will suddenly remember that you owe them something.
Yeah.
But that's how it works, right? Because nobody's going to sue you if you got no money to go after. But the second people realize, oh, they're actually making money, good, let's go after them. And that's when it becomes like, because the reason I mentioned this is because we get these horror stories all the time, right? We get people who come to talk to our strategy advisors, and they tell their stories like, hey, I've been running this brand for 20 years. I came up with this amazing thing, and I've been doing this, blah, blah, blah. Great. And it's like, what took you so long? Well, I don't know what took me so long, but now I'm finally ready. It's like, great. So the first thing we will do once they become a client is we run a comprehensive search just to see if the name is trademarkable, it's available. And oftentimes the answer is no, because there's something out there that's too close. And we go back to them and say, you know what? I don't know how to tell you this, but the thing that you've been building for 20 years, you don't own. And in fact, if you keep promoting this, they're probably going to go after you. And it's a situation with no good outcomes.
Yeah.
Because what are they going to do? They're going to go and try to buy that trademark off of someone else. They're going to rebrand after 20 years. Like it's heartbreaking every time. And remember I show like the value of the brand being zero at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
It's so much easier to rebrand when nobody knows you. So much easier to rebrand when you're not really attached to the name, when it's just a cute idea, cute word, cute image, compared to it being attached to years and years of your life. And so if it's a business, and trademarks, they're not astronomically expensive, right? We're talking a few $1,000s, but it's not like 10 grand or 20 grand or 50 grand. There are no annual maintenance fees. Like, you get it for 10 years.
Yeah.
Right? And
I think that's what frightens people a lot, is that they feel like, it just seems like so complicated, or that they have to make a definitive, because I'm sure there's some people who are like, well, I think this is what I want it to be, but like, what happens if all of a sudden I change my mind, or I need to pivot, or I've put something in the name that now doesn't make any sense anymore because I've decided, I'm not doing whatever. I'm not selling soap anymore, but I friggin' put soap in the name.
Well, show me a business owner, and I'll be able to find tens, maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars they've wasted on things that don't work.
Yeah.
Right. That's how we come up with something that does work.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And the ads that didn't work out, the old versions of websites, like all of that stuff, it doesn't happen for free. It takes resources. Right. And that's how we grow. That's how we evolve. And yes, of course, there will be brands that you will abandon, and you're like, what was I thinking?
Yeah,
right.
No, that didn't work at all.
Right. But the important thing is, like, it's like brushing teeth, right? You wake up, you brush teeth, right? Me and my wife, we're always fighting because I was brought up the way that you brush teeth before breakfast, and she was brought up that you brush
After.
teeth after breakfast. And so with our three kids, we're like, I yell at them, you got to brush teeth before breakfast. Right. But uh but yeah, we all know we gotta brush teeth, right? With businesses, there are things you gotta do, right? You gotta take care of things. And if you don't, there's gonna be big problems when when your teeth start falling out, I guess. To finish off that analogy.
Well, and I think this is good. So let's talk like actual numbers, because I know this is something that people are like probably still sitting there in their head and going, how much? Because this is one of like my, like, I don't really want to call it like a pet peeve of mine, but it's always something that I'm like, just tell me the number. Like, I just really want to know the number. So can you spit numbers out for us? Like, if somebody is sitting there going, okay, yes, I'm answering yes to all of the other questions. I want this. This is the brand. This is what I'm doing. I'm making this a business. I'm growing this. This is going to be huge. What am I looking? What are they looking at to work with you specifically?
Right, so you asked for it, right? It's not a shameless plug. You
No,
asked
because I want the numbers. I want people, because I think this is the thing, right? If they don't know, again, then I'm just doing what I said to them before, where they're like, okay, I don't know. Like, what's that number? So, yeah,
yeah. So the
I
number
take
is very
blame.
simple. Yeah. So we got three packages. One of them is by far our best selling package. So I'm going to just talk about that, not to
Okay.
make this more complicated than necessary. It's called all inclusive. It's $3,000 per trademark plus the government fees that you're going to pay. So, and it's start to finish. Doesn't matter what happens in the middle. If we determine your brand is not trademarkable, you can get your $3,000 back, or you can send us an unlimited number of other options until we tell you, hey, this one is doable.
Okay.
And we're going to do that one. And after we file it, we take as much time as necessary to deal with the government, send them responses to what's called an office action. And if at the end of the day, it still doesn't go through, you get your $3,000 back. Right? Nobody does. When was the last time you got a refund from a lawyer?
I'm pretty sure most people out there are like, somehow something always manages to come up to use that last little bit.
Yeah, yeah, and so we do trademarks in U.S. and Canada primarily. So so I now have two companies. One is in Canada, one is in Dubai, and the business is mostly in, like I said, U.S. and Canada, and we find that it's more than fair price because we see. Uh, here's what we see a lot of. There's so many fake cheap websites that promise to, get you your trademark for 69 bucks,
Right,
99
of course.
bucks.
Yeah, yeah. Or the
Uh,
do-it-yourself packages that you see everywhere, right? Like you can go
yeah.
into any registry office and they're like, here's a package to make your will, to incorporate, to da da da
Yeah.
da. Yeah.
And so what they do is they will file your trademark for 69 bucks. You won't have an attorney of record. Uh, so they'll file it as if you are filing it
Okay.
yourself. Uh, and in so 81, in 19% of the cases, your trademark is going to go through.
Right.
One fifth, right? In 4/5 of the situations, the government is going to get back to you with what's called an office action, which is the list of things they don't like about your trademark application. And you have to respond to that. And if you don't respond to that, your trademark application is going to die a painful death, and that's going to be the end of it. And what happens a lot is that, so you start with your $69 package, then you get an office action, if you even see it.
Right.
Because sometimes you won't even be notified properly. And so let's say you see it, you go back to your website and say, hey, can you fix this? And I go, no, we're not attorneys. You have to find one. So you go but don't worry, we've got a firm that we're working with. All right, don't worry. And so they send you to their law firm, and their law firm says, "Yeah, don't worry. We know how to take care of this. We're going to respond to this office action at $300-400 an hour, And they will. We're going to write a response. Nobody knows how many hours it's going to take. And then I file a response. A few more months later, Trademark's office comes back with another office action. And now their lawyer's going to say, oh, you know what? These people at Trademark's office, they don't really understand how this works. We send an amazing response, but we got another office action. But don't worry, we're gonna respond to that.
We got you.
Right. And this shit keeps going on and on and on and on. And at some point, the brand owner who thought that they were doing everything right, they said, I want to get this trademark. They went and trademarked it. They start feeling like an ATM.
Yeah.
Because what are you going to do? You're going to walk away from your trademark application? No. Yeah. Like, but at some point you're like, hey, I started with $69. Now it's, 2,500. Now they want another $4,000 just to send a longer
and response. It's still not mine yet.
And it's still not mine. And exactly. And so at the end, so they send a second response, and let's say that doesn't go through. And they issue what's called the final office action, when basically and so their lawyer is going to say, you know what? We regret to inform you that despite our best efforts, your trademark application was rejected. Thank you for your business.
Here's our final invoice.
here's your final bill. Exactly. Right. And to me, this is despicable. This really is not the way brand owners should be treated. And so what I wanted to do is I wanted to build the opposite of this. When you know exactly upfront how much it's going to be, and I understand that 3K is more than 69. I'm not stupid, but when you realize that for 3K you get guaranteed result for a guaranteed budget, that it's not going to be more than 3K, and that if you don't get the result that you're paying for, you get your 3K back. People who've gone through the situation when they're getting milked, like, they are our best clients, because really it requires zero amount of selling to them.
Yeah, because they're like, fine, yes, good, thank you.
Like, we tell them I guaranteed, and there's no additional fees for this. No, where do I sign up?
Yeah,
right. But and that's really what. So to the point we made at the beginning of this interview, this is my first business, right? I've for most of the time, I barely have any idea what I'm doing. And I've made a ton of mistakes as a business owner, so many of them. The one thing that kept us going was the offer. We've wasted hundreds of thousands of dollars on some paid advertising. We've wasted, tens of thousands of dollars on team members that didn't work out. And we would have been out of business if not for the offer, because that's when people hear it, if they're serious about their brands, they're like, sign me up. And so that's what we're here for.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's a good thing for other people to hear, right? I think that entrepreneurs have a bad tendency of never saying, oh, I screw up all the time, right? It's like they feel like, I can't say I've ever tanked. And I've owned multiple businesses, and I get people asking me all the time, have they all been good? And I'm like, what? Oh my God, no. You should see some of the ideas that I got super excited about and threw a bunch of money at, because I thought it was going to be fantastic. And this is going to be so much fun. And then, get into it and go, oh, this is shit. I don't like this. And it's not, so I think that those stories are important for people to hear, because it's okay for every idea not to be brilliant. That's how we get to the good ones. I now know that retail is not the place for me for more than 2 years. Right? Because being in that situation and dealing with customers and having to be pleasant and kind doesn't last very long for me. So it was a lesson I had to learn the hard way. Now I know, I have a limit.
You play within it.
I play within it. Exactly. But I think it's, I love that, we were able to give exact numbers, because if you think about it, like you said, in Canada, it's a 4-year process. Like for me, I look at it and go, okay, 3K, and then whatever, come back to me in 4 years and tell me you have it. To me, that's like a good expense, because I know, okay, now I can I can budget for that. And there's going to be no extras on top of that, right? I know that somebody's going to be handling this.
Well,
Is
the
a lot,
government fees that you pay to the government,
of
they're
course,
always on top
yes.
of it. But yeah.
But to know that, you're not going to have that fear of, it going on and on and on, because that's frightening. I've been in that before, and, having to, have some legal battles, and you're just like, this might sink us. Because could you just give me a number? And I mean, it never happens. It doesn't happen with accountants. It doesn't happen with lawyers. Like there's just mechanics, it's always like, I don't know. I'll fix it
Don't worry.
eventually. Don't worry. I got you. My son is learning that the hard way, because he was like, he wanted a square body truck. So he bought a 1978 truck. And I was like, this is not the best idea. And he's like, it'll be fine. It's not that bad. And I'm like, it's almost as old as your mother. So if you'd like to look at how my body kind of went over those 40 odd years, maybe that's an indication. And now that he's, $16,000 in from having to fix and fix and fix and fix, I'm like, it was a good lesson, wasn't it? But let me tell you, everybody knows that truck. If he was going to trademark anything, it should be that freaking truck, because everybody in town knows who that kid is. So, and I appreciate that. I appreciate your honesty and being like, this is how much it costs, because I think it's important for people to know, and to also know that they have somebody who's going to be on their side, who's going to help them. Because I think that's the thing. When things go smoothly, it's great. But when you don't know about this, or when you don't know, is this something that I should trademark? My name, my logo, like what exactly should it be that I'm trademarking? It's nice to have somebody who, is not like, let's jump on a 2-hour call and we'll talk about it at length.
We do want people to get on a call with a strategy advisor, because sometimes you have multiple things you want to trademark, and sometimes you want to trademark more than you have the budget for. And really their role is to figure out with you the order of priorities. Okay. Right. So like, we're not hiding the prices. They're all over the website, but that we still want you to get on a call, because like, I don't know, maybe you have a business in US, in Canada, or you sell your products to both countries and you have a name and the logo. And like, if you add all those up, like, it might be more than you're willing to spend at the moment. And so the question is, like I'm just going to give a random example. So let's say you have a service that you're selling across North America, and you have a name and a logo. So that's 4 trademarks, right? Name in Canada, name in US, logo in Canada, logo in US. Let's say you have money for 2. Right. And so here's the question, like, well, what do you do? Do you do 2 in Canada? Do you 1 in Canada, 1 in US? And really that's what their job, the strategy advisor, is to figure out with you what's the better approach. Because like, for example, and again, I don't want to get too technical. Like, there's this thing called conventional priority. You get a 6 months grace period after filing in your home country to file everywhere else, and you can backdate your application, right? So if you know that you're going to have a lot of money coming in the next 5-6 months, you might as well go do 2 in your home country and then do 2 in the other country. Or the other questions you ask is the logo really important to you? Like, if you're an accountant, small accounting firm, does anyone really give a shit about your logo, or do they just know you by the name? And the logo nobody gives a shit. Right. And the logo is just something that, is, you have some fun with designing, but really nobody remembers it. Yeah. Right. You're not planning to franchise big offices across the country. All of those questions we want to ask during the call in order to help steer you in the right direction. Right. But the we also want to make the base price clear so that people know what they're dealing with.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's good because it's good for people to know too that you're going to have somebody who's going to go, okay, here's what I think, what I think you should do. Because it's true. Maybe you're in a business where, the logo doesn't really make a difference. Whereas if you're, a product base and that you're stamping that on everything you send out, you might want to consider that that's also the second trademark that you do, right? So I think that sometimes people don't take that into consideration, and it's okay not to know. I think that's the other thing that I wanted. That's why there's other people like you that can go, no, here's what you should, here's what I suggest that you do. Because how do you know, right? Go to somebody who has the experience and go, okay, what do you think I should do with this?
One of the common misconceptions we hear all the time is, hey, I know I got to do this, but I'm just getting my designers to do the logo. Once we have the logo, then I'm going to go and trademark both. And our response is always, what if the name is not available?
Right.
What's the point of paying designers to build a logo for a name you can't own?
Right.
Like if you already have a logo, sure. I mean, we can check them both. But if you only have the name at this point, don't bother with spending time and money on designing logos. First, find out if you can own the name, because just because you can own the domain name or social media profile doesn't mean nothing.
Right.
And that's another part about strategy that a lot of people don't realize.
Well, and I think that's a good point, because I think a lot of people go, well, I got the website and I got all of the social media names, so it can't be trademarked. But I think there's some people who sit on trademarks.
Yeah. And look,
just like they sit on domain names and go, you can have this for $3,000. And you're like, no.
I think Alex Hormozy bought his acquisition.com for a nice six-figure number.
Right.
But so here's the thing. If all it took for you to secure your brand is to get a domain name, then people at Google and Facebook must have been complete idiots, because they owned the domain name, but they still, for some reason, went ahead and trademarked their brand. I wonder why.
Well, but I think it's something that you don't like. I think for a lot of people, like we were saying before, who go into this, there's so much different things like trademarking that nobody talks to you about. Right? You're just like,
and a lot of people are actually providing really, really bad advice about, hey, don't worry about this, become big, then think about it, because you have this common law protection because you were there first. Bullshit.
I remember when I opened up my accounting firm first, somebody said to me, speaking of bad advice, that all you needed to do, what was it? All I needed to do was mail a letter to myself with the company name on it. Do you remember that one? And that was it.
Yeah. It's called poor man's copyright. And because this way you can sort of protect copyright. You can't protect brands like this.
Yeah.
But like there's a thing called the common law trademark, right? Which you can, in theory, in Canada and US, establish that you have become so widely known under this brand to the whole country, that the judge is going to say, yeah, they own common law rights. This is extremely hard to do. This is extremely uncertain, because there's this case where I'm actually shooting a video about this, about Optimal Pet versus Optimal Pets. So Optimal Pets started selling their pet food, and they didn't bother to get it trademarked. And then some other company came up with the same brand and sold it to a massive store. They got a trademark. And so the first guy said, hey, hang on a second. We were here first for several years. And the court looked at that and said, yeah, you sort of were, but you didn't become big enough. So screw you and your Optimal Pet. We're going to recognize the people who bother to use the tools that were given to them and they trademarked it and you didn't. And that happens all the time. And so the common law right, it's going to cost you significantly more than 3K to secure in court, because it's probably going to cost close to 100 grand or more to do this dispute. It's uncertain because you don't know what the court is going to say. You're going to have to do it every single time. Like proving this, that you have a brand, you're going to have to do it every single time you have to fight somebody, right? And it's just like, if you are not going to want to invest 3 grand to protect your brand with the simple tools that the government gave you, what are the odds that you're actually going to go hire a lawyer, pay them 100 grand to spend 2 years of your life to go to all those court sessions, all the depositions, provide evidence of how you are selling this product, how many people know you in this geographical region, how much money you spend on ads? It's hard.
Well, and I'm sure it's just riveting courtroom procedures.
Yeah. but guess who gives this advice about, don't worry, common law trademark is going to help. Those same lawyers are going to want to, you come to them and say, yeah, we can win. You were there 3 years before. You have a good case. You have 68% chance of success. And you hear about this, 68% or 83% chance of success. Great. And then when you lose, they'll say, well, yeah, it's this.
You were in that 19%.
Darn it. Like, it's still.
We tried so hard.
It just boggles my mind that these are the people who are supposed to help.
Yeah.
Right. They're not supposed to take advantage, and they can't. Like, they have the knowledge to do good stuff. Why do this? I don't know. It's beyond me. So,
Yeah. So you just have to find the right ones. Well, and what I like is that that people can go on to trademarkfactory.com and request a free call with one of the strategy advisors, because I think that's important to, be able to tell to somebody, okay, look, this is what I'm doing. This is who I am. This is what I've created. This is what I'm doing. What should I do? Like, is this right for me? Should I be, should I be doing this? Because I think it's important to be able to get that advice if you're unsure or you don't know. Obviously, make sure you have the 3K ready to go at least for one of them. I'm just saying, because I've been on calls where people are like, oh no, I could never afford you. I'm like, why are you wasting my time?
and make sure you mention you came from this show, because if you do, our advisors are going to know to maybe give you a little bit of a special.
Oh, well, that is sweet. So people can go to your site, but you have a YouTube channel as well. So talk a little bit about some of the videos that you put up on there, because we'll have all of the links for everybody to go. But I know that people, I don't know, at first I was like, I wasn't too sure what videos you would have, and I was surprised.
Yeah, so we've got close to 1,000 videos. I think we've done more than 1,000 by now. Like, I don't know, I lost count. And different counters on YouTube give me different numbers. Some say 1,000 something, 900 something. So I don't know, but it's up there. If there was a question that you ever wanted to ask about trademarks, I've probably answered it more than once. Like, there's a bunch of technical ones. There's a bunch of fun ones when we go through news of the day, like the screw ups. We are launching this new series when we're going to go and talk about those cases, like the optimal pets, like very dramatic ones. So this one I'm actually very excited about. Those are
the fun ones, like, to talk about, though, right? Like, because I talk a lot about collaborations, and I love it when I get to talk about the ones that fail. It makes me happy.
And this is, like, a lot of people ask us, what do you guys do with AI? This is something we actually did with AI. So we took a case, we took a court judgment, we fed this to AI and said, make this into a Law and Order type drama video script, right? And it wrote something really freaking good.
Oh, did it? Oh, that's awesome.
And so we made a few changes, a few edits, but generally it's very good. So we're going to see if the public loves this. I think they will. We're also going to do another series for. I'm going to go through a few real failed trademark applications. I'm just going to share my screen and say, well, these guys filed their trademark. Here's what they did. Here's what happened. They got this office action. Here's what the office action said. And, the trademarks office mentioned this thing. They could have avoided it by doing that. Right.
Right.
This and this
Yeah.
and this. So that's another one I want to do. But like,
Because I think those ones, I
so
love
much
that
stuff.
idea because I think those ones are really exciting for people because they get to see it, right? Like they get to learn from that. And I always say, don't bother making all of the mistakes yourself. You won't have enough time. So like, let's learn from the other ones. It's easier, it's quicker.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so will all of these new videos that you're doing, they're all going to be on that one
Yeah, they're
YouTube
all
channel?
going to be. So you go to YouTube, go search Trademark Factory, and or if you're going to post the direct link, it's probably even easier.
Yeah, we'll have all of the links posted when the episode comes out and where everybody can check it out. But I appreciate you just being candid with it because I think there's a lot of entrepreneurs out there who just aren't aware of should they trademark or they think it's too soon. I'm not big enough. I have to wait until I get really big. So I think this helped to kind of take some of those mysteries out of it for them and let them know, no, do it now. When it's easier.
Here's an interesting fact. In US, so in Canada, they file 70,000 trademarks every year. In
Really?
US, they file about 700,000 trademarks every year.
That doesn't
In
surprise
China,
me.
it's 7 million every year. But let's go back to US. So if it's 700,000 a year, that's almost 2,000 per day.
Wow.
Right. And if you break that down into hours, that's about 80 trademarks an hour. So while we were having this wonderful conversation with you, 80 trademarks were filed. Someone may be filing a trademark that's too close to what your audience has been dreaming of having as their brand.
Right.
And this is just, this is not fear mongering. This is just numbers. This is basic facts.
Yeah.
And it's getting harder and harder to secure something because with all the layoffs, right? Big companies are laying people off. They're all, qualified people, right? But people who got laid off from Facebook, they're not going to join Google. They're not going to go to other big companies. They're probably going to start their own stuff. And they're going to be competing with, other small businesses. And they've got the resources. And they're going to come up with names and they're going to, go and trademark those names. So while you can, protect the stuff that you've been working so hard on, because your brand is not worthless. That's and if I'm to leave with one big message, it's this, right? There's a reason you came up with that name. There's a reason. There's something going through your brain when you're like, I'm not going to be nameless. I'm not going to just sell product and say, hey, buy my stuff, right? Yeah. I'm going to give it a name because you wanted people to remember you by that name. You wanted to, I don't know, maybe legacy is too loud of a word, but for some, that was what you were looking for. But even if that's not, you still wanted people to remember. You wanted to build something that matters. And until you've made to the point when you're actually making a huge amount of money, there's going to be a lot of people around you who are going to ridicule you, who are going to doubt you. But once you've made it there, suddenly they're going to tell you, I believed you day one.
The whole time. Oh, yeah.
Oh, the whole time. But if you listen to them now and don't do the stuff that needs to be done for you to get there, you won't. And that's kind of my big message.
I love that. Andrei, that was amazing. Thank you so much for coming on, chatting with us, making trademarking not a boring topic. See, I told you guys, I told you it would be a good conversation and good stories. We'll make sure we have all of the links to everything that you're doing. And I look forward to, just continuing to watch. And I also want that link to when that video comes out because I want to see that AI courtroom reenactment. That has me very excited. So I'll make sure that I put that out.
All right.
Great episode, right? I love somebody who has like really good stories, gives you tangible advice. And trademarking, I know, is one of those things that sometimes as business owners, we just kind of roll our eyes at, or we think, you know what, I'm not advanced enough yet to need this. And this is why I wanted to have Andrei on the show to really showcase when, where, why, what it is that you should be thinking about in trademarking in your business. But also, I really liked the way he structured it, knowing that it's $3K. That's what it's going to cost you. You know, going into it, what you're looking at, and you have somebody who's really trying to make this happen as quick as possible, because the quicker it can happen, ideally, the more sort of money they're making. So his structure works not only for you figuring out your budget, but also for making sure that it's being done efficiently, which is what we all want to do. So I want you to take a moment today to really sit down and decide on the scale of your business, figure out exactly where you are. And if your plan is, no, look, I want to go big. I want to do this. I want people to know this. I want this to be a household name, which usually most entrepreneurs do, then take that moment to go check out the blog post, look at all of the links that we have for this episode, and book yourself a call. Talk with their strategy advisors and find out exactly what it is that you should do. Create a plan, know what it is going forward, and let me know, because we're going to be shouting out everybody who's like, yes, I use this, I trademark, this is mine, I own this. It's something that you need to make sure that you celebrate, because like Andrei said, your brand is important. This is something that you're putting life, sweat, blood, tears into. So make sure that you're protecting it the way you need to, so that it can last forever. And I'm excited to watch what you all create. So coming up in future episodes, I'm really excited because I decided to do a little bit of a shift this year. And I really wanted to create more information, because you guys have been asking for it, about collaborations, the clients that I'm working with, some of the things that we've done, some of the great trademarks that are out there already, some big brands, some small brands, some fails, and why I think they happened and how you could avoid them. So coming up in our episodes, that's what I'm going to be talking about. And I'm so excited because it's going to be so much fun to dig into these. So if you are like, you know what, I've collaborated before, message us. Let us know what collaboration it is that you do, and your business and whoever it is that you collaborated with could be one of the features on our upcoming episodes. I'm really excited about this. I've been having so much fun doing the research and digging down into it. I can't wait to share it all with you. So no matter what it is you're doing today, whether you're trademarking or you're just getting excited about our future episodes, make sure that you take time to stop and have fun. Because as I always say, if you're not having fun, why are you doing it?